Hi, juniors. Okay, this video is for you. And I need to be very clear right now. This is not an assignment, so it will not go in the gradebook. It is not a remote learning opportunity. It will not help boost your grade. So this is nothing about the gradebook. This is literally just an assignment that I usually do with juniors at the end of the year that I find very helpful and very applicable for all my students, but we ran out of time, and so I'm not going to hold you accountable for this. There's no way that I can guarantee that everybody has an opportunity to even see this. So it is not a grade. It is not going in their grade book. This is just a lesson for you. Usually what I teach juniors towards the end of the year is how to write a resume. And I think this is really helpful because students can use that resume right away to try to get summer jobs, and then it can be used next year when you're applying to colleges. And it can also then be used when you're a senior and you get another assignment that is write a resume. So if you end up needing a resume, you can then use this. You'll just need to edit it. A resume is an ongoing document, so you're constantly editing it. It's never quite done. So again, not an assignment, not going in the grade book. It is not a remote learning opportunity. This is literally just something that I think might be helpful. So I'm going to give you what I have. So hopefully it helps you out. All right, let me sort of share my screen. Okay, I think that I should be in the bottom of your screen, hopefully, maybe. What I posted with this is this document called Resume Directions. This right here tells you how to write a resume, gives you the directions, gives you important notes, and it gives you the steps to do so. I'm going to talk through all that right now. What a resume is, if you're sitting here like, what are you even talking about? That looks like resume. It's pronounced resume. We're fancy over here. But what a resume does is when you apply for a job, they will ask you for a resume. It is a one-page document, does not go on 2 pages, just a one-page document that gives an idea of who you are and what your experiences have been. So this is really great. Instead of them looking at just your GPA, they're going to be able to look at all of you at once. So you didn't just get a 3.2 GPA, you also worked a job and were involved in 3 extracurricular activities. So gives a good picture of who you are. So I want to go through this document that you have, and I will tell you, kind of give you an idea of what you're creating. This first page in this document, those are the directions, like I said. The second page is an example student resume. This is what you are creating. It will have your name and your contact information. That way a potential employer can contact you if they'd like to interview you. It gives your education information. So it tells your future employer that you are still in high school, and you also maybe did the tech center, maybe you didn't, but it'll give them a little idea of your education. It will tell you them if you have any work experience. Some of you will have work experience, not all of you will, that's okay. Extracurricular activities you might have participated in, community service you may have done, any skills you might have. So every single resume is going to look very different. So there's a lot of freedom in how you set this up. I will tell you that there's not one right way to do a resume, but I will tell you that there are a lot of wrong ways to do it. So follow my guidelines and hopefully we'll end up with something that looks pretty good. This looks very organized. Things look very consistent. The spacing is very nice and it takes up a whole page. So that's our goal. We want one whole page, but no more than that. The third page in this document I created for you is a resume outline, kind of. What you can do with this is if you copy this whole thing, you can paste it into a blank document, and then you can just delete where it says street address and plug in your street address. Delete where it says phone number, plug in your phone number. So you can feel free to do that. You can also just start from scratch. That's totally fine as well. The last page are a bunch of power verbs. I will explain what these are and when you will want to use them, so it's kind of just a good reference for you. It came from this website. I didn't come up with the list, but I just found a good source out there. Okay, so let's go through how you write a resume. As far as directions go, start with a blank Google document. There are templates on Google Doc for how to make a resume. Yes, you could use those. They create resumes very quickly. My beef with them, however, is that they leave a lot of spacing. So if you add quite a bit of information, a lot of detailed information, which you should, you want to give your employer a good idea of who you are, then it will go onto 2 pages very quickly. And when it goes on 2 pages with a template, it is very hard to edit and move things. So you really constrain yourself and make it so you can't, you don't get a lot of freedom with how to create it. So I'm going to recommend do not use a template. Please, please, please do not use a template. It is so much easier for you to start with a blank Google document and then edit it through the years as you go. So please, if it's the only thing you listen to me about, let it be that. With your Google Doc, be sure that you go up here where it's going to say untitled and make sure you put the word resume up there. That way in the future when you need this or you want to edit it, it's easy to find. You can just search for resume. If you are going to ask me for feedback or if you're going to ask Ms. Boltheis for feedback, put your name up here as well. That'll just help because if we get a bunch of resumes, we won't just have 12 documents that just have the title resume. We'll be able to figure out whose is whose pretty easy. So start with a blank Google document. Again, it can only be 1 page. So if you end up going onto a second page, you might need to edit down the information that you're putting on your resume, or you could change some spacing. So if you've got like spaces here, you could like delete a space. You also can mess with your margins a little bit. This is what I like to do. So if you go to File and you go to where it says Page Setup, you'll get this option. Yours will automatically say 1 inch for each of your margins. I like to make them 1/2 inch. So feel free to do that. You could also make like the top one like 0.75 if you wanted, whatever, you can mess with them a little bit. I would recommend not going much smaller than 0.5 because then it looks kind of not good. So 1/2 inch, that's kind of your minimum there. Here we go. So first step, center your name and your contact information at the top of your page. If you would like for your name to be a different font, you can get a little bit fun there. I would recommend making it bolder. I chose a size 18, totally up to you. I wouldn't make it like 48, but somewhere in the teens, 20s, make your name stick out because that's important. But then when you get to your contact information, you're going to want to go down to size 12, 10, maybe even 8. So if you're running out of space and you want to make things smaller, you can go down to 8. I wouldn't put important information down to 8. Contact information could be. I made mine 10. That's totally fine. Address, phone number, email. Make sure whatever information you want to include, your phone number and your email have to be on there. This is how your future employer could contact you. And so if you don't have that, that makes it hard for them to get a hold of you to get an interview. So that's what you'll do first is your name and contact information. Make sure that your email also is professional. Don't use your student email because the numbers, that looks really weird. That's hard to type in. So create a professional email if you don't have one. What I mean by professional is you don't want to be like basketballer 27, woo, like it should be something related to your name. So I put some examples of a professional email I could use. A Boston, easy enough. AR Boston, so I could use my middle initial. Amelia R Boston, Amelia B, something along those lines. So something related to your name, and then if you need a number, so if there's nothing available and you need a number, try your birth year or your graduation year. Do not put any inappropriate numbers, and you all know what those are. So no inappropriate numbers. Next step is to decide on the headings that you want. On mine, my headings are bolded and capitalized right here. You can see education, work experience, extracurricular activities. You might choose to underline them if you want. Whatever you do, just make sure that it's consistent all the way throughout. They don't need to be bolded and capitalized, but you want them to stick out. They're headings, they're important. So however you want to do that, maybe they're size 12 and the rest of your font is 10. That's totally fine. I will say though that you do need to pick one font. So don't have Arial here and then Comic Sans down here. Arial or Times New Roman, that's what I would recommend. So decide on your headings. Choose one font. Here, right here, I've got some heading options that you guys can use. So you could use education. You all need to use education. Everyone should put that first. You can also include work experience, extracurriculars, community service, community involvement, leadership experience, skills, awards, interests. If you don't have one of those things, so if you have no leadership experience, don't include it. That's totally fine. Only include the ones that you have. You all have, something you all can put on there is education, you all have skills, and you all have interests. So if those are the only three, at least include those. If you have work experience, you need to include that. That's very important for future employers to know what jobs that you've already done. Include extracurriculars if you're involved in those, community service. So this would be volunteering, community service. The difference with community involvement, what I would mean by that is like, are you involved in youth group? And then are there any like other community groups you're involved in? Maybe there's a community choir. Maybe there's something relating to tulip time, Dutch dance could fall under community involvement, or extracurriculars, whichever you want to put it under. So up to you how you want to do that. But choose the headings you want to include and choose the format that you want to include them in. Again, I did size 10, bold, capitalized. They should all be the same. All your headings are the same format. Then under each heading, you're going to neatly format your experiences. So what you'll do, you'll list your experience, then you'll identify the responsibilities each experience entailed. Those responsibilities will be bullet points, and you need to start those with a past tense power verb. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Education's a little bit different, but even still, I'm using the bullet points here and making it look very consistent. But if you look at work experience, extracurriculars, community service, those all look very similar. So I started just a normal 10-point aerial, started with the workplace that you may have worked at, Salt and Pepper, maybe. The location, Zeeland, Michigan. Then I put a colon and I put the position. So you would have been a waitress, or maybe you would have been a manager, totally up to you. Then in italics, I put the dates that I had that job, right? Underneath that information in bullet points, those are going to be the responsibilities. What did you do? What were you responsible for? And here you want to always start with a past tense verb. And if you use power verbs, it looks very fancy. So waited, provided, took, monitored, prepared, planned. That is parallel structure, and it keeps things very consistent and makes them look pretty and professional. So we definitely want to use that. So waited on and served customers as a knowledgeable member of staff, period. See how I put a period there? That's going to be consistent all the way throughout. Provided exemplary customer service. This one, a lot of you that have work experience, you do this. So whether you are in the food industry or you are in sales, you're still providing exemplary customer service. You can feel free to steal that sentence. I give you permission to copy it. But I would say don't write it for every single job that you had. And then took direction from a manager and executed tasks efficiently. Look at that. Executed, took. So I can help you on some of the phrasing, but you want to start each bullet point with a past tense verb. This recording is at 13.5 minutes and it will cut me off at 15. So I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to come back in a second video to explain the rest of this. So be back in just a second for video 2.